Good evening. It is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Welcome to the Keeping It Real Conversations with Sunshine. I am your host, Camila, aka Sunshine. We are live on Spotify. We are live on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, which is Sunshine Camila, Kamela. And I am doing it now where we will be public. We are live on YouTube, which is the name of the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. I've been waiting for this conversation. I have one of the best guests ever all the time. Like, you guys should be jealous. So I get to meet these dope people that have awesome stories, that have awesome careers, that have awesome everything about them. And this is why we are here. This individual, again, I met through actually as a relative, a main event. Like I told you, I get all these incredible people from my big bro main event. And this is nothing less as usual. So we're gonna get into his bio real quick. We're gonna be talking to Mr. Roland Williams. I am a regional airline first officer flying the CRJ 700-900 based in Charlotte, NC, which is, I want y'all flying. That means airplane. Okay, let me get back to this. I am from Linden, New Jersey, class of 2009, Linden High graduate. I attended Everett University in Danville,
Denver.
Virginia, where I received my flight training and earned my bachelor's degree. I am aspiring to be a pilot at one of the major airlines, American, United, Delta. In my free time, I enjoy making memories with my wife and daughter, making barbecue on my smoker, and riding my bicycle. So, you guys, I want you to welcome Roland Williams to the show.
Oh, well, thank you.
So, how are you this evening?
I am well. I actually just got finished smoking some ribs not too long ago, so everything is
making me
great.
hungry.
I know. I apologize. Yeah, my wife requested ribs, and my daughter wanted a brisket, but I didn't feel like dedicating 10 hours in the backyard for a fire, so I just bought a chuck roast and cooked that for her. So everything is all good.
So, not only are you are currently a pilot, correct?
I am.
And not only that, you're a husband, you're a father, and you cook.
Mm-hmm. Try to do a little bit of everything.
I see. Literally.
Yeah.
Oh, your cousin is on. So let's get into this. When did you most of the time as youth, we're looking at, that career day in school when they be like, okay, what do you want to be? And everybody says the police officer and they want to be a
Right.
fireman. They want to be an
Right.
astronaut. So is that one of those things that happened with you? Like I wanted to be a pilot?
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because I did want to be a fireman. I know it sounds kind of cliche. And then another thing that I was also interested in becoming was a forensic scientist until I found out that I was a little squeamish when it came to blood and IVs and dissecting stuff. So I said, well, we got to figure something else up. But growing up in Linden, right by Newark Liberty International Airport, just I was looking at the airplanes, like take off and land and turning over my house. And that's kind of what sparked the interest. And then I was talking to my next door neighbor one day, and then she said, well, why don't you just do it? And I think I was probably around like maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I was like, I never even thought about that as an option. And that's kind of what sparked the interest right there.
Wow. Funny thing is I live by the airport too. But I ain't never want to be no pilot though.
I know I'm an oddball. I'm an oddball. And my mother, she talks about me because I love weather. I'm a weather nut, weather nerd. And I actually wanted to go to Oklahoma and become a storm chaser. And
Mm.
then she said, boy, you ain't doing that. And so I figured aviation would be another thing as well, because it's
Thing,
still
yeah.
heavily involved in weather.
So, cause I mean, I don't know any other pilots. You know, you're the first pilot that I know. Um,
Okay.
it and so I'm excited. You know, okay. So, what does the process look like for a pilot?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get your private pilot certificate. Um, so the basic FAA regulations are a minimum of 40 hours, and you have to get 10 hours of solo. They call it cross country, so anything that's longer than 50 miles. So it's just all of those requirements. And then once you do that, the next thing, well, I can give it to you in how my university did it. So you get your private pilot certificate. And after that, you get your instrument rating, which is flying like into the clouds where you can't see outside. So you basically have to rely on all the instrumentation inside the airplane, up, down, left, right, and everything, so forth. And then after that, you get your commercial certificate, which just allows you to legally get compensated for flying. And then what I did after that was I got my multi-engine rating. So just flying an airplane with more than one engine. And then after that, I became a flight instructor where I got all my hours in because I had to have at least 1,250 hours in order to qualify to become an airline pilot. So I gave close to about 1,000 hours of instruction before I got hired on at the airlines.
Hmm. And this all by the age of
Well, I had a little bit of hiccups in the road. So I started in 2009 and I finished flying in 2014. It's expensive, so ran out of money. My wife and I, we moved to Georgia where we live with my sister for about 6 months, and then we got our own apartment. And then I got in-state tuition, and that's when I actually got my CFI down in Georgia at Middle Georgia State University. And so started in 2009, but I actually didn't become an airline pilot until 2020. So it's not the usual route, but it's just my path. Some people can do it in as little as 2, 3 years. Some take longer. I flew with a captain. He was a correctional officer. He decided at the age of 50 that he wanted to become an airline pilot.
wow. Hmm.
So
So let me ask this question. Because again, we're not doing like race or anything, but when you see movies, when you see all of these things, you always see a white male
mhm.
being a pilot. So are we seeing more of blacks doing pilots?
there, there are definitely more. More,
Okay.
I can definitely say that because when I was a student at the university, I was probably, let's say if we had 60 students, we probably would have been like 2%. And now it's closer to like, I know it still seems low, like 5%, but it's growing, and that's in the right direction. And not only that, but there's a lot of Black females as well that are now making the crossover into aviation. And so, and it's funny because like every time I see a brother or a sister in the airport, we walk past each other. It's kind of like a head nod, or people be like, you know them, be like, nope. It's just
Right.
a mutual respect.
Yeah, I can see that. Matter of
Mhm.
fact, not too long ago, I read an article of a father and daughter pilots,
Okay,
and
it happens.
I didn't
They're out there.
see what where they were, but I was just like, oh, that's nice.
Hmm.
To see your father and your daughter. I'm not sure if they're on the same planes, but
Gotcha.
again, just the fact that they're both pilots is awesome.
It is.
So what as far as courses is like, is that more like science or what is that? Math?
It's specific. That's the best way I could put it. There's some science involved, but we really don't deal with that because um, thankfully all the engineers had taken all that science and kind of dumbed it down for us to use, and so we don't really have to think about it. We just really focus on flying the airplane. But I mean, as far as math, it's just basic addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. However, on the airline side, it's a little bit easier because we have dispatchers. So we don't actually make the flight plan. The flight plan is already made for us. So they calculate everything. How long is it going to take? How much fuel is it going to be? And like the actual route. And so we just verify and make sure that it's legal because we're all human. We all make errors and be like, oh, the weather's bad here. We need an alternate in case we can't get in. And so they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry about that. And then here, I'll send it over. And then we get a new release. Everything looks good and we check out.
So I have so many questions. This is exciting. So, have you ever thought about the service side of it? Like not so much commercial, but actually like fly for the military?
I have, but with that side, you can be gone for like on deployments for like a really long time. And I didn't really want to be gone that long. So with my job, my company, the standard is like a 4-day trip. So I'll never be away from home for more than 3 nights,
Okay.
which is enough. Cause generally by like day 2, I'm like, all right, I just want to go home and see my girls.
Wow. I was just about to ask, like, so what is the longest flight? So you already answered that. So that's cool.
Well, I mean, yeah, just generally like so. I start in Charlotte, and I won't be able to leave until that 4th day. So I go to work on Thursday, and I'll finish Sunday, and so I'll be able to see my family then and just reconvene and have some
Wow.
fun.
So what's the benefit? What is the benefits of being a pilot?
Free travel,
Mm,
uh, and especially when you're in uniform, when you are traveling as like a passenger, because I was a commuter, like probably about 80% of the aviation community are commuters. So what that means is they don't live in base. So for my first 7 months, I was based in Philadelphia. So I used to drive an hour and a half to Raleigh, North Carolina, fly from Raleigh to Philly just to start work. So when you're in uniform and they see you're like commuting, they 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 always ask like, do you need anything? Or they like it's more of a like we know how it is, so we kind of we take care of our own in a way.
yeah.
So that's probably one of the benefits as well. Like I said, free travel, but sometimes you really don't have the time to travel, or there's no seats available because every time we do travel, it's on standby.
Okay.
So that can be it can be a pain. So sometimes if you want to go somewhere, you may not be able to go direct. You may have to go to 2 or 3 different airports before you can finally get to your destination.
Um. So, right now, where is a place that you would love to take your family on vacation?
I really want to go to Madrid, Spain. I don't know, it's just something about Madrid. I remember when I was in high school and we were like in Spanish class and we see like pictures, like the way like Spain just looks. It just is like I don't know. It's just like somewhere that I really want to go and visit, experience the culture, see how it is, how they operate, and just kind of like immerse myself in it. And that's one place that I'll really like to take the family. My
So,
wife, on the other hand, anything in the Caribbean,
right,
Jamaica,
right.
Bahamas. So
So, where is the place now that is somewhere that you've been that like most people probably haven't been to?
uh see that as on the regional side, we get to fly into some of the smaller airports. So I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't really. I mean, we service Des Moines, Iowa. I don't really see a lot of people like, oh, I want to go to Des Moines or um like Asheville, North Carolina. Well, some of the smaller cities. Honestly, I can't remember them all offhand. Like sometimes I just get home from work. Like, so where'd you go? I'm like, where did I go? I don't really be remembering sometimes, but some of these like small in the middle of nowhere, like Bentonville, Arkansas, the home of the headquarters of Walmart, in the middle of nowhere, right?
Wow.
So like, who goes out there? But I actually enjoy flying out there, maybe because it reminds me of where I did my flight training at, kind of an airport in the middle of nowhere. So it kind of like reminds me of home in a way, or well, I guess you can say home because I live here now. So
Wow.
yeah.
So growing up, did your bedroom have like all the model planes and all of that stuff around?
No, honestly, no. Um, didn't really have any of that. However, I did play a lot of airplane video games. One of my favorite was Ace Combat, and my buddies and I, we would just get online and just go at it for hours. But yeah, just really, and I've upset so many captains because I like quote like movies, like airplane movies, aviation movies, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like how are you a pilot? And I'm like, I just really love airplanes. Like that. That's why.
Yeah.
So
Um, so going to assume you seen Top Gun.
yes,
So you do know very soon the second one will be coming out, right?
I do.
And are you planning to go see it?
I am planning to go see it because I enjoyed the first one. Now, quotes from it, I can't really remember, but it was a good movie, and I'm looking forward to the second one.
Well, let's get into this. Now, I'm like late 70s and Top Gun, a young Tom Cruise for one, and then two, the whole like losing his best friend and trying to find his way and all of this to come out victorious is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now in the second one, he's coming back as a instructor,
Okay.
and he's gonna get up there with him too. Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited. Just when they said, and I said, please do not make this cheesy and do
Right.
not mess this up, please.
Right.
It would make
Definitely.
everything just not right for me, and I don't want to be there.
No, it's got it's see that's the scary thing about sequels is sometimes they're not as good as the first.
Absolutely,
So hopefully they do this one justice.
I hope so. So what does a balanced life look like for you?
Uh when I'm home, I'm home. That's the plus side. I don't have to worry about work except now because I have recurrent training. We have recurrent training every year. So I'm just like in the book studying. So that's kind of taking up some of my time away from home. But like I mean, I'll hang out with the family when unless I'm home or home, doing whatever we gotta do, XYZ, whether that's chores, going out, having fun, movies, bowling, whatever it is. And then work. I personally would help what I found helps me better is like the earlier, like starting at no later than like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Because I'll be generally be finished by the time my wife gets off from work. So I really don't like flying past 9 o'clock. Uh, Sometimes I can't avoid it. When I get in at like midnight, it makes it really hard to talk to my family. So I find it easier if I can start at like 4 o'clock in the morning and be done by like 3 in the afternoon. That makes life a lot easier because then when I'm off, I can kind of relax for a little bit at the hotel, wind down, get a quick workout in. And then after that, when my wife gets off and daughter gets back from daycare, then I can just hang out with them on FaceTime for a few hours and then start the whole process over again.
So with your flights, this is do they tell you what flights or you can choose?
All right, so there's two kind of things. You're either on reserve or you have what's called the line, which is like a set schedule. So my first 8 months at the company, I was on reserve, and they have three types of reserve. The worst one is hot reserve. They call it airport appreciation, where you pretty much sit at the airport for 8 hours and you don't know if you're going to get used or not.
Wow.
The second one is short call, which that works generally if you live in base, because you have a 2 hour call out. So they'll call you and you have in like 2 hours, you got to be at the gate, pretty much ready to go. And then the third type of reserve is called long call. So it's a 12-hour call out, which that one really helped me out because since I was Philadelphia based, I would get the phone call, be like, okay, I got 12 hours. I look at a flight. All right, cool. I'll get on the first flight out from Raleigh to Philadelphia and then start work. But with the line, I know where I'm going. So I know I'm flying the rest of this month. I know I'm going next month. And then we have the ability to kind of maneuver the schedule around. So everything is seniority based. And I'm in Charlotte, I'm closer towards the bottom, but I would say I'm like the bottom third. So I kind of get what I want, but most of the times I don't. And so I still have the ability, like, let's say if I need next weekend off, and I didn't get it, I can go in there and kind of move things around and split flop days and figure things out. And so realistically, you kind of get really good freedom over your schedule because you can end up having like 11 days off that month. And then if we have to have what's called like 65 hours worth of credit. And as long as you don't go below that, you can have, I know some people that they get like 15 to 18 days off a month. So, and that really helps with the balance. And I always wondered to myself, like all these airline pilots like that we would have like come back for our alumni day. I'm like, why don't they ever want to work? But I get it now because when they work, they can't come home that night. So it's not like your typical 9 to 5. We're like, all right, honey, I'll see you later when I get off. Have a great day. It's like, no, so you really want that time off from work so you can really work on that work-life balance.
That's good because I had no idea.
Yeah, like no one of my wife understands my schedule now. But when I try to explain it to my mother or father, they're like, I'm glad you know what you're talking about because they have no clue.
Right. So, what is the regulation hours of an actual flight? Like, you can't fly it over so many hours.
Generally it's like 9 hours like per day. But it all depends on what time you like your duty day starts. So even though it sucks, but sometimes I like it when we have a report time at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm only good for 10 hours. But if you like 5 o'clock after, you're good for like 12 hours. And then that's not including like you could like if it gets like in crunch time, like towards the end of your duty day, but you still got like one more flight to do, you can accept an extension up to 2 hours and still be legal. But if let's say like if it's weather or a delay, and if you can't get off the ground within that 2 hours, we got to turn that airplane around and go back to the gate, or else we'll be in trouble with the FAA.
Okay. So when, like you said, with weather, and like say for instance, in those moments where they're canceling flights left and right, so basically you can't do anything. Are you still at the airport or you go back to the hotel?
It depends on the day or how many legs we have that day. So if we are like in a base or hub, so our hubs are Dayton, Ohio, Philadelphia, DC, and Charlotte. They'll probably figure something else out for you. But if we're at like an outstation, so any airport other than that, we might get stuck there, or they'll send another airplane out and they call it a deadhead, where they're just getting us. So we'll end up being a passenger in the back of the airplane, and they're going to bring us back to base so we can get on our next flight that we were supposed to do.
Mm.
So
So have you had that moment yet, or
I it was kind of weird for me. So it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were supposed to go from DC to Burlington, Vermont, and they ended up canceling the flight because of it was snowing in Vermont, and with the braking action on the runway, we couldn't carry any passengers because you run the risk of not being able to stop the airplane on the actual pavement. But they still needed the airplane for the next day. So the captain and I, we flew an empty airplane out of there. That was probably the most fun I've ever had in that airplane because it was actually like being strapped to a rocket and blast off. So we went out there and everything was good. And then on the way coming back, they had to end up canceling the flight. So I thought we were going to be stuck out there. but we ended up flying another empty airplane back to DC. So I've never really been stranded. One of the times I could have gotten stranded was in January when the couple of snowstorms hit. But I was supposed to start work that same day, and they canceled my flight for that day. It ended up getting canceled the second day. So out of that 4-day trip, I only worked one day. Um, so so I've know other people that they haven't been as fortunate. They've been stuck and ended up traveling home on their day off just because there was the weather and there was no airplane available to get them back home. Thank you.
Wow. So is that something in like, not to get into the money part, but like say if you get stuck and it's no doing of your own and they cancel flights, do you still get paid for that or no?
Yeah, we're pay protected
Okay.
because it's no fault of our own. So
Right.
there's nothing that we can do. So like per the contract, they still have to pay us for that.
Okay. So I know I read that you eventually want to go to the bigger commercial airline.
Mhm.
Is that still something that you want to do?
Definitely.
So what is the benefits of being at a bigger commercial airline?
More destinations, bigger airplanes, more advanced technology. Because like at my company, we only go to Canada and the Bahamas. But if you go to a major, you'll be going to like Europe, China, and stuff like that. Hawaii, you get to see all of that. And at my company, I just won't have that opportunity.
So with that being said, how does that work with going to like a Europe when those are flights are longer, right?
Hmm.
So you'll be able to do the whole thing without stopping, or how does that work?
Yes, they can carry a lot of gas. More so going east, you don't have to worry about it, but it's coming back west because you have to fight the headwinds because generally the winds travel from west to east. So going east, you can like let the winds just push you and keep you going, but coming back, that's really when you gotta like, do we need to make a stop? But I mean, these airplanes, they like the engineers, they pretty much got it down to a T of how much gas it burns and how long it can go, and how far it
Wow.
can go. So.
For those who are on Facebook right now, if you have any questions for him, please write them in the chat room and I will ask them for you. Again, if you have any questions for him, please write them in the chat room and I will ask the question. So would you be surprised if your daughter grows up and wants to be a pilot? How would you feel?
I asked her one time, I said, "You sure you want to live this lifestyle?" But she loves airplanes. Fortunately, unfortunately, she went on her first flight. She's probably, I think she's what, 4 months, and I had the pleasure of doing that. We rented a small airplane, and I took my family to go see some college friends that live probably about, it was maybe about there and back, like an hour flight. So we just had fun, and so I got them on an airplane, and ever since then it's been like um, airplane, airplane,
Right.
airplane,
Uh-huh.
airplane. And so I had the pleasure of having my wife and daughter come with me on an overnight. So I got to fly them. We spent the night at the hotel and then went to the pool, got something to eat. So we had a good time. And then yeah, she just loves airplanes, looking out the window and everything.
Um,
Loves
Someone
flying.
asked, do you prefer is it Airbus or Boeing?
Airbus all day. I'm an Airbus fanatic.
I don't know what that is. Is that the
Well,
plane?
it is the plane. All right.
Okay.
So on the flyer, it's a Boeing. That's a Boeing 737. It's a great airplane, but if I had to choose one to fly and retire on, it would definitely be an Airbus. Um, it's more of a it has a joystick,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like pretty much you're just like flying a computer. It has a tray table. Like every time I get to sit up with the crew and they eat their meals, and so they pull out the tray and everything, set everything. And then on a Boeing, you got that control column in the middle. They all look kind of like cramped, and they gotta
Ramp.
like do
Mm-hmm.
this like maneuvering stuff. And I just really like Airbus.
So I'm assuming this is your sister. She says, "Who's your favorite sister?"
Okay.
Don't get in trouble. That's all I'm telling you.
I love them both very much dearly.
Good answer.
Don't do me like that.
Listen, I'm just asking the question. That's what they
Got
wrote.
you.
I'm not in it. I
Right.
am not in it. Um. So what do you feel is one of your proudest moments? I mean, just having a pilot. But do you get a pin? How does that work, or is that just in the movie?
Oh no, we get wings.
Okay.
And they go on our uniform. We wear them on our jacket and our shirt. And I don't ever wear my hat because it's not required. I've actually never wanted to work, and I wasn't gonna buy it, but my mother was like, "You gotta get the hat. You gotta complete the look." And so I was like, "Okay." So it really just sits in the bag to keep the dust off of it, and they give us like the little emblem that's in the middle. So yeah, we just wear the wings. So I actually got my wings right after I finished simulator training because everything is in the simulator. Right, so everything is in the simulator. It's just like the airplane. Um, it's a little more sensitive than the actual airplane.
Okay.
Um, when I finally got in the airplane, I was like, "Oh, this is so much better." I was like, "Yes, like this is like finally like I can have some fun." But I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified that first flight. Absolutely terrified.
So of course, leaving all the best for last. Um. So as a kid or as an adult, being even having the idea of flying, you can't be afraid of heights, right?
There's a lot of us that are afraid of heights. I'm actually afraid of heights.
Stop it. No way.
Yeah. But like for me, if more so like if I'm not secure, I can do roller coasters, I can do a whole bunch of other stuff. But I went ziplining one time. We had to
Uh-huh.
climb a telephone pole to the platform, and I got to the top, and I looked down, and I mean like my knees just started buckling. We were in Jamaica for my cousin's wedding. I was gonna go cliff diving. I looked down at that water, and the more I looked at it, the further where the water got. Knees started buckling. Like I can't do this. Like I just don't do heights. But as far as an airplane, like I'm secure, I'm locked in, everything is good.
Now that's interesting that you said that. Because I was supposed to go zip lining in Tennessee last
Okay.
year,
Okay.
and the weather was bad, so we end up going to Wonderworks. And I recommend for those who go to Gatlinburg or one of them, Pigeon Forge, one of them,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
And I went in and they had this put the harness on and walk up all the way up to the ceiling. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I got halfway up. My husband went all the way to the top. Now, the
Right.
higher you go up, the less the planks are, no ropes.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was doing this, staying close to the wall, touching it. You
Uh-huh.
get to the middle, there is no wall. The planks get smaller. You got to go on the rope to get to the. I said, I got to
Yeah.
go. And I felt like once I finally got down, I realized I do better on roller coasters, airplanes than I would on a free falling type situation. So I'm
Right.
glad that happened. So my idea of zip lining is like, I don't know
I
about this
don't know
one.
about that.
I
Right.
don't know. But my husband is the opposite.
Daredevil.
I'm like, I can't do it.
Right.
But that's amazing. So can you do roller coasters?
I can. I can. And it's funny, like every time when we're in Charlotte and we land off and we get ready to take off, what is it, 1-8 center? I always smile because on the horizon there's a theme park called Carowinds. Like half the park is in North Carolina, half is in Charlotte. I mean in North Carolina, South Carolina. And there's this roller coaster called the Fury 325. And it is like a behemoth of a roller coaster, and I can see it. And I was like, and every time I light up, I see it, I just crack a smile like, Oh yeah. And then I come back into the airplane. So I always get my little split second of just like flashbacks of riding that roller coaster and all right, time to go back to work.
Wow. Someone asked, "Do you ever feel guilty cutting the security line in the airport?"
Not anymore. I used to, but but it makes sense now because I was like when we're crew, because we have a certain report time. So like if we have to be at the gate at 4:47 in the morning, like we have to be there at 4:47. So if we wait in the security line and we're late, and if the flight is late, then the flight crew takes a delay. And so then now the chief pilots are calling us like, so why were you late? And then not only that, but the flight attendants, their in-flight supervisors are gonna call us, so why were you late? And try to figure it out because it affects our performance. So something that really could have easily been avoided by just and then in TSA, they'll tell us like they'll tell it was like, hold on, I got crew coming up, and then they'll let us go. And then when I first had people like kind of look like, what makes you so special? I'm like, well, it's not even that. It's just like we're just trying to go to work. Like if we
Right.
can't get to the gate, um, you never know what could happen. And not only that, but let's say if we get to the airplane and there's a maintenance issue, now it's gonna take an extra 10 minutes that we just lost in the forehalf. So now from us possibly being able to depart on time, now we're late. So not really, but most airports they have what's called KCM or known crew member. So we got like our own lane, we scan our badge, and then we pretty much just go through,
Okay.
unless we get subject to random screening. So it happens and be like, you've been chosen. I'm like, okay, so now I got to go back through the security line, but kind of like blast past everybody and then go through. So I got to. So we're not all exempt from getting X-rayed and going through metal detectors.
So on the average, how many people are actually on your flight? Or it
Well,
varies.
the 700 has 65 seats and the 900 has 76. For those of you who don't know what a CRJ is, I'm sure nobody knows. This is it right here.
Mm.
So um, all of our flights have been like full, pretty much. So yeah, I think at least like 95 or better, for 95% or better full. So
Wow. You
January
haven't
was
had
when
any Karens, have you?
say it one more time.
I said you haven't had any Karens, have you?
Um, yeah, we've removed a couple of passengers. We've removed a couple. And
Mm.
so it just happens. We'd rather deal with it on the ground than in the air. So, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we say like day one in the brief, like, hey, if you got a problem with a passenger, I support you all the way talking to the flight attendant. Because once that door closes, like they're on their own. And so our job, we just have one job is to fly the airplane. And so, and then support the flight attendants in the back. So if they call us, say, hey, we're having an issue, all right, we'll talk to the company and then kind of figure out like, hey, do we continue on to the destination or do we divert to another airport to address the
Get them off.
situation
Hmm.
and then go back? And then we really try not to do that because it disrupts the whole operation. So you just get like staggering delays and pretty much everybody who was going to be on that airplane as far as not that city to city, because like we swap airplanes all the time, but everyone's pretty much going to miss their connections to either go
Wow.
home or on vacation, and we really don't like doing that.
Um, how does it feel to be responsible for so many lives?
It's rewarding. Um, I haven't had any emergencies, but there was one time I actually felt the weight. We were flying into DC, and I looked at the controls, like the control page, and I was like, it's not supposed to look like that. Like it's not. And so the captain, I was like, Captain, you see this? And he was like, yeah, that's really weird. And so we just wanted to make sure we weren't going to have an actual flight control issue. So we turned off the autopilot, and it wasn't maneuvering the way it was supposed to, but it was definitely safe. And so as I was probably about 10 miles away from DC coming to land on runway one, I kind of like was like, oh man, like, yeah, that's really when the weight of everybody behind me really like fell on my shoulders. Kind of felt that. But most times, honestly, day-to-day operations, when things go smooth, I kind of forget everyone's back there until we open the door. Or it gets like turbulent because then it's like, oh, if it gets like really bumpy, right? First thing you want to do, hey, make sure the flight attendants aren't standing up because they pretty much become projectiles at that point in time. And then turn the seatbelt sign on, make sure everybody's sitting down. So everybody's safety really comes first. And then we just try to do what we got to do to try to find the smoothest ride possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
They said tell your funniest flight story.
I don't have any. I don't have any good stories. Uh, I'll have to come back to that one. I gotta think of something. I apologize.
You okay? Um, so have you had any issues with or let me go with this question. Are you with the same co-pilot all the time or is it switches up?
It switches up sometimes. Generally, like if the captain, if they're on the like the same line, I'll fly with them all the days. So if it's a 3-day or a 4-day, we'll fly all those days together. On the last trip, it was a 4-day. I had the same captain for 3 of the days, and then I had one captain for the last day and a half, so to speak. But when I was on reserve, I kid you not, like I mean, in a day, I could probably fly with like 4 different captains. Like it was just like, hey, okay, see you. I got to go this airplane. They're sending me here. They're sending me there. But okay, and so that's just kind of like how it rotates. So it's always nice when you have the same crew because you kind of build like a rapport. You kind of understand how everybody works. But then at the same time, it also kind of like keeps it fun and interesting because you're like you meet different people and some of the captains I've learned more than from others. Like some of them, they're kind of like just like sit there and then just like we'll talk back and forth. But like some of them have like really been teaching me some things, and so it's been like an eye opener on some things. And I'm like, wow, like I really appreciate you showing me this because ultimately we all are learning and we want to get better,
Right.
do better. So like I've had some captains that really just like told me some things and I'll like never forget. And that's because some of them have like thousands of hours in that airplane and I only have 500. So they'd be like try this. This may help you out a little bit. Oh yeah, this is great. Like why didn't anyone show me this? He said, well, it took me like 1,000 hours to figure it out myself. So I see you doing the same thing. So let me show you this and that'll help
Mhm.
you out.
Right.
So that's kind of how it goes.
So you ever thought maybe down the line that like say for instance, when I get to where I need to get to and I'll be like, listen, I need Roland Williams to get on the plane, give me a private jet, whatever, so I can get to where I need to get to. So you ever thought about doing that on that
At the
end?
private corporate side, um, yes and no. Some of the companies they had like you're on call like 24 hours. So I could be at like my daughter's dance recital and the phone rings
Oh,
and I gotta go to work.
got you.
But some aren't like that. Some are like when you're on, you're on. When you're off, like they'll leave you alone. Some have better schedules, some don't. So some people they'll work like 15 days on, or like 13 off. I don't want to be away from home more than 4 days. So like the airline, pretty much, I think it works out well for me and my family.
So just to say, one day soon
Mhm,
that I'm like, I need to get to I'm in Michigan and I'm like,
mhm.
I need to get to New York. Um and like I request you. Is anything that possible or no? Or you literally
No,
have to be in the private sector?
it would pretty much have to be private because like it all depends. When you're on reserve, you really don't know what you're gonna do until like a couple days or a few hours before. But like I said, I got my schedule for next month. Like I know exactly where I'm going. The only way to change is if, like something cancels and they gotta like swap something around, or if there's like a bunch of new hires and the captain I just so happen to be flying with is they call them line check airmen, so they're like kind of like instructor pilots.
Mm-hmm.
They'll kick me off the trip, put me on something else, and then put the new person in my original trip because they have to gain the experience. So that
Absolutely.
happened to me a lot in January. Like I only flew one of my original trips. Everything else was like interesting, except when they made me go to New Orleans. That was a lot of fun.
So have you ever had a moment your co-pilot or somebody like that like freak out for a moment like what in the world just happened?
No, I've had some grumps. I'd
What
be
is a
like,
grump?
this is a
What is
grump.
that?
Like kind of like the old school. Like well, it's one of the captains. He's old retired Navy, so it was just like if everything wasn't kind of like the Navy way, it wasn't right. Even though I mean, not technically because we have to do everything that the company tells us, but like since he already has that military training, and then I was still considered low time because I didn't have 100 hours in the airplane. So he was just like on me all the time, and I'm like, hey man, I'm going as fast as I possibly can without making a mistake. It's just like, come on, man. So it was just like something like you might get something like that. Others they'll kind of see you like kind of getting behind. Um, and they'll come in and start loading things up too. Cause like my job, I pretty much gotta do the walk around, load up the GPS and everything, set all the frequencies, get all the altitudes right. And sometimes captain will be over there on their phone, just like looking at me sweat bullets. Or sometimes I'll do the walk around and I'll come in and everything's already loaded up and I'll just go ahead and double check it. So it's kind of like a balance. But either way, it doesn't matter to me because I know what I'm supposed to do and what I got to do, and I like the challenge. So it's like I know if we got 30 minutes to turn this airplane around, I'll jump out, do the walk around. If they're in there, like going in to get coffee, I'll make sure I got everything loaded up, double check it, and then when they come back, like, hey, let's go.
Wow.
So,
So I was just watching not too long ago. It's so funny. Independence Day, right?
mm-hmm.
So in those moments when the world is on your shoulder, will you show up to be one of those extra pilots like, look, I'm going to conquer and defeat all the aliens. You down for it?
I mean, if it comes down to it, if it's life or death, I'm gonna go out swinging.
Yeah. So, uh all the aliens that's out on the earth around here, y'all listening. You got this pilot right here that's gonna come out and actually get on the plane, do what he needs to do,
It's
whether
fun.
he was military or not, and you in trouble. And I'm gonna say, now that we have this connection, when I need to go and uh rent, I don't know how they even do that. Have a private jet, plane, whatever it is. I know a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Long as he back within 4 days.
Good to go. Good to go. Yeah, that fourth day is crucial. Like
Right.
when this go home day, we all be looking like, all right, look, don't break nothing, don't do nothing. He's gonna go home. It's like, okay.
Wow. That is amazing. I had no clue and no idea that, how the schedule goes or any of those things. 'Cause again, it's not, I'm not saying normal, but I don't know any pilot.
Yeah, it's different. It's the lifestyle. And like I actually it was cool because I had an overnight in Dulles, so I met up with a former student that I had when I was an instructor, and we were sitting there talking, and he was like, "So what's the hardest part about your job?" I said, "You really want to know what the hardest part is?" And I said, "It's getting in my car after a 4 day and driving 2 hours home." I said,
Wow.
realistically, that's it. Other than that, anything that's outside of my control, whether it be weather or more so maintenance delays, because nobody likes those because it inconveniences everything. And so those are pretty much the three biggest things. I live 2 hours away from Charlotte. So and I said, because a lot of times, like, I think, let's see, when I start work, first day is at 7 in the morning, and then all my other wake ups are like 5 o'clock or earlier in the morning. So like being at the airport. So like leaving the hotel at like 4:40 or 4:20 in the morning just to be ready for like a 5 o'clock departure. And so I just be
So
burnt out on go home day.
do you or do a lot of the pilots like drink coffee? What do they do to stay awake?
Coffee or tea. Most of it's coffee.
Okay.
But honestly, like I'm up. Like sometimes, like we'll be in the van. It'd be like 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody is sitting there just like chit chatting, having a good time, which is really strange. Because I would think like, and then sometimes like everybody get in the van, it'd be like stone quiet. But I don't know. For me, I've always been a morning person. That's the reason. The reason why I said I don't like 5 to 9 o'clock, because generally, and honestly, if I was on this podcast, I'd probably be on the couch nodding off right now. Right, like 9 o'clock, like I'm about done. So whenever I gotta fly to like midnight, I'll be up there like, all right, here we go. So I'm like, all right, I know I want to go to bed. So I try not to drink coffee no more than 5 hours before I go to bed. So about 5 o'clock, chug, 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 and just keep it moving.
So before I let you go, because I'll tell you an hour go past so fast when you're having
It sure
fun.
does. I didn't even realize what time it was.
It happens all the time. So in those moments when, like, say for instance, you're going through the turbulence or you're going through bad weather, with the
Mm-hmm.
rain and stuff, what is that moment like for you to be like, okay, God, I need you, or what do you say to yourself?
Um, all right, here we go. Like, yep, here we go. The last time, the worst experience I've ever encountered was going from Charlotte to Columbus, Georgia. And it just so happened to be on the airplane that the autopilot was deferred. And so I had to hand fly it, which is no big deal. And there's a lot of autopilot, a lot of autopilot, a lot of autopilot. All right, let's clear the air. Right. But I had to hand fly the whole thing. And then the captain looks at me. He said, "You've done everything right so far." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Why don't you slow down just a little bit?" And I said, "All right, cool. Slow down." And I mean, like we were getting rocked. Like it got to the point where I could barely see the screen anymore. Right. And I'm just doing whatever I can to keep the airplane level and maintain altitude. And so the captain's on and he's trying to talk to air traffic control to get us like down for altitude. And in the radio, it sounds like someone sitting on the washing machine during spin cycle. That's how bad it was. And so
Wow.
we finally got down, and I was just like, "Whoa!" And then when we landed, I'll be honest, it wasn't my best landing, but I was over it. I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna put this thing on the ground and then keep it moving." And I asked the captain at the end. I said, "What could I have done better?" He said, "The landing." Other than that, it was A1. But I mean, for all those people who fly out there, a firm landing is the textbook way to land a jet. The smooth, soft landings aren't what we're supposed to do. However, it is what we like to do because a lot of us pride ourselves on landings. And I do too. So if I ever kind of plant one into the ground, it's always on accident, unless conditions warrant. There's two airports. If I going into DC, and if we get the shorter runway in Philly, yeah, I'm gonna drive it onto the ground and get the thing stopped because the runways are shorter. But you give me like 8,000 feet of long runway, like if we land on the center of Charlotte, 10,000 feet of runway, 12,000 feet of runway here and there. Oh yeah, I'm gonna try and grease it on if I can. But most of the time, it's just like, all right, about 5 feet in the air, kind of like whatever happens, happens at that point. As long as it's not hard,
Right,
that's all that
right.
matters.
One more question and then I'm gonna let you go. So do you ever get like the client customers come back and say thank you for, getting us here, thank you for flying the plane and getting us safe?
Yeah, we get that. We get it a little bit more on those kind of days, like really gusty winds or crosswind landings, and when just like it's not the most ideal conditions, where it could be borderline like this flight may cancel, but we got to go anyway. On those days, we kind of get like the thank you guys, like yeah, that was a great job, and be like, well, we appreciate it. I mean, that's what we're trained and what we do, but it still makes you kind of feel good that people are still appreciative. Because I mean, we out there working our tails off on those kind of days.
Right.
So,
Yep. Yes, definitely.
yeah.
Wish I get it. Again, thank you for taking the time out this evening to chop it up, to talk to us
Yeah,
about
definitely.
this conversation. I learned a lot from you. Like I said, I've never touched a pilot before, never knew about a pilot.
I got
So
you.
just to see someone thriving in this field, and a black man too, and pride on his family is awesome.
Yeah.
So again, kudos to you. Again, I give you your
Mhm.
flowers. I will send the this broadcast to you. I have forgot how. I think it was Facebook. I can't remember right now.
I
But
got you.
anywho, I will
Mhm.
let you get back to your ribs and whatever else she cooked with it, because
I
y'all done
got
made me
you.
hungry.
I got you.
Again, thank you again, and
Thank
I will
you.
talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great night.
Remember, people, you are one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny, and we are out.
See ya.